Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Susan LoPresti Wellness, Mind, Body, and Soul. This is the podcast where we explore the highs, the lows, and everything in between when it comes to a woman's life, her health, and all aspects of navigating the midlife landscape. I'm your host, Susan LoPresti, and today I'm very excited. I have a very special guest for us today. His name is Dr. Derek Alessi. And Dr. Alessi is a health and fitness expert with nearly 30 years of experience, helping people lose fat, reduce medications, and optimize their health, especially for adults over the age of 45. After transforming his own health as a teenager, he earned a doctorate in health and physical education and a master's in nutrition, dedicating his career to sustainable, science-backed wellness. Dedicating his career to sustainable, science-backed wellness. A frequent media guest with over 2,100 TV and 400 radio appearances, Dr. Derek simplifies fitness and nutrition, helping people take control of their health full life. So without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Alessi to the podcast. Doctor, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to join us here. I am so excited to speak to you today. So let's begin. Dr. Lindsay, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Susan, thanks for having me. My pleasure.
I was going through all of your website and your products, and the product that really grabbed me was the macadamia nut oil. So I wanted you to get into that. And how does it compare, or how is it better than the other healthy oils that are out there?
It's an interesting story. So when it comes to the macadamia nut oil, I learned about it about 10 years ago from a guy named Tim Ferriss, who was very popular. And he wrote a book called The 4 Hour Body. And in the book, he was talking about what he called the new olive oil, the new olive oil. Now, mind you, both sides of my family were from Italy. So, of course, I had a lot of olive oil in my background, and I was compelled to learn more about it. And basically, the way in which Tim sold the product to the audience, to his readers, was really three things. Number one is olive oil is a fantastic oil because it is high in omega-3 fats, which are super healthy for your cells. But it is not a fantastic cooking oil. And the reason why olive oil is not fantastic cooking oil is because of the smoke point. It's fragile above 350 degrees and it breaks down. You lose the good properties of the oil. Whereas this macadamia nut oil was very high heat, stable over 515 degrees. So that was number one. Number two, it had even more omega-3 and omega-9 fatty acids, which are fantastic for your heart, for your vessel walls, for your brain, than even the mighty olive oil. And lastly, and what really sold me and a lot of our customers is the fact that it's a rich, nutty, buttery taste, whereas olive oil by itself can be somewhat bitter. This tastes richer, nutty, buttery. So if you could remember years ago, cooking eggs, cooking vegetables, cooking meats in butter, but you wanted a healthy alternative, this gives you both. So it is so popular. And once people start using it, it becomes their new favorite cooking oil, hands down.
Okay, that makes total sense. Yes. And so it's definitely a better alternative also to like an MCT oil or a coconut oil as well.
MCT is also a fantastic oil, but it has completely different properties, and I would discourage you from cooking with MCT. We sell an MCT oil as well. In fact, we sell a fantastic one called high octane MCT oil, which is organic. It is excellent for getting people into ketosis, taking the sugar out of their liver so they're burning more fat. But the real power of MCT oil is it's good for the brain.
Yeah.
It prevents against dementia in a lot of studies, and also too increases cognitive function and cognitive speed, which is super important if you're like me and you're aging. Now, you wouldn't want to cook with it because the cooking temperature is somewhat low. It's only 276 degrees Fahrenheit. So that would be pretty low level cooking if you're going to use an MCT oil. And MCT oil does come from coconut oil
Yeah.
if people don't know the difference between the two. So there is hands down so much more versatility in cooking with the macadamia nut oil. Now, to take one step further, this macadamia nut oil that we bring in from Australia has a property called cold processing put into it, which means the oil is extracted at super cold temperatures, which keeps those very fragile omega-3 and 9 particles intact. So they're very potent, delivering the benefits they're supposed to, as opposed to heating up the food in order to extract the oil. That could sometimes ruin it in the processing, in the high heat processing. So two awesome oils, two different applications. With the MCT oil, it's more popular to put it in a drink. You could put it in tea, you could put it in coffee, you could put it in a protein drink. And one little secret I'm going to tell you about MCT oil,
Please.
I even put it on my beard. I put it on my skin. It
Oh,
is fantastic. If you want really soft skin, if you want luxurious skin, if you want to feel as though you have baby skin, you want to use MCT oil on your skin.
yes, that's great. That's a great suggestion. The macadamian oil, so I understand the cooking benefits of it. How well is it if you're making a salad, let's say, so something cold? You could use it for that as well, and it still has that buttery taste to it?
Yes, and I have a lot of clients and customers that do just that. Now, mind you, I also do produce the most amazing keto salad dressing made with extra virgin olive oil. So if it seems as though that I'm not a fan of extra virgin olive oil, that is so not true. I'm a huge fan of extra virgin olive oil as a salad dressing. But that being said, if you wanted to use the macadamia nut oil in a cold application like that, it's fantastic. So you can use it for both high heat cooking, but also cold applications. And lastly, although it's not MCT oil, I have some customers that love putting it in their coffee just because of what it does for the flavor.
Right.
So they're putting it in their coffee as well. It can be used in so many different ways. And lastly, I have a 12-year-old daughter who's a baker, and she bakes all of these things that are, well, they're unhealthy. You know, her father, of course, being a nutritionist and an exercise scientist, can frown upon it, but she bakes with it and she uses it in place of that very toxic vegetable oil or seed oil that's high inflammatory. So you can bake with it as well, which is just absolutely amazing. So it's good in all of those different processes.
Wow, that's excellent. Excellent. Now, do you, with your clients or your customers, do you also recommend, as far as the diet goes, the keto diet? Do you adhere to that? Or what's your philosophy on a different way of eating, a healthy way of eating, let's say?
Yeah, and for distinction for people that may not know, for the past 30 years, I've been helping people in a private practice. As I mentioned before, I'm a nutritionist, I'm an exercise scientist, and we have a clinic in which we help people with everything of losing weight, dropping body fat, reducing or eliminating medications, and really living their best life. At the same time, Strength Genesis and strengthgenesis.com, that's my supplement company in which I try to produce the highest end food ingredients that people could use either as supplements or just as straight foods to help transform and improve their life. Now, when it comes to individual diets, I would have to put my hat back on of being in my clinic phase, and it all kind of depends upon the person. Where in general, I'm a fan of keeping insulin levels low. And one of the best ways to keep insulin levels low is getting rid of high glycemic or high sugar based carbohydrates. So I'm getting rid of sugar. I'm getting rid of grains and breads and crackers and potatoes and sugary things like that. So that would lend more to, you might think it could be keto, it could be Atkins, it could be carnivore, it could just be low carb. So I'm more inclined to do that without getting too over radical on clients because my patients are people that are 45 years and older. I'm not working with the 20-something-year-old set that's looking to look great at the beach or at a bodybuilding show. I'm working with people that want to be healthier. They do want to lose weight and look great, but they're not willing to do it at all costs. So I don't want to push the buttons of going pure keto, pure carnivore, pure Atkins. In many cases, that's just a little bit too much.
Right. So you're not pushing that they be in ketosis, like, it's okay to have carbs, but just limited carbs, limited amount of carbs.
Yeah, no, I think your diet can be pretty flexible.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I think the basis of it has to be made up between proteins, fats, and low glycemic carbs, which would be vegetables, certain low glycemic fruits and nuts, things like that. If that's the basis of it, there's times in which you can add some things that would be higher glycemic. And think about maybe the worst possible scenario. You're eating ice cream, you're having sub sandwiches or bread or pizza, something very high glycemic cereal. I couldn't think of something even higher than the corn. There's a time and a place for it, but it can't be all the time, which many people, of course, fall into that pattern of having it too often because sugar is classified as a drug and it is addictive and it has a half-life of 5 days. So the more you have it, the more you're going to crave it, the more you're going to want it. And it's hard to break that cycle. So if you had it just 1 or 2 days in the week, as opposed to having a little bit every day, you're going to be much more successful. Now, to go back to what you just said about ketosis, sometimes we could eat things that would not be on a keto diet, but we could still get into ketosis if you're trying to drop fat, which of course sounds like music to everybody's ear. They want to drop fat, but they don't want to just eat pure keto all the time. The way around it is you could use a couple different strategies. Number one is having those high glycemic carbs, as I mentioned, no more than once per week. And if you did that, you would stay in ketosis. Number two, we just talked about it, MCT oil. MCT oil taken on a daily basis can help keep you in ketosis, even if your diet isn't pure keto. So I'd recommend 1 or 2 tablespoons. You could put it in a beverage. You could even just take it on the spoon if you want, and it will help promote ketosis. And lastly, as a lot of people know, you could use different levels of intermittent fasting also to give you ketosis without eating a pure keto diet. So there are different approaches and strategies to accomplish the fat loss without eating pure keto.
Would you be concerned with someone who, has higher cholesterol levels and taking NCT oils? Are you concerned about that at all?
Now, it's an excellent question. And the answer is something simple that we would need to discuss over a 13-hour interview when it comes to cholesterol. So, a lot of your listeners may have been hearing a lot about cholesterol recently. And what I mean by recently is if you were to go back 15, 20, 25 years, everybody was pretty sure that high cholesterol levels were bad. All of the recommendations nutritionally were low fat, no fat.
Yeah.
All of the doctors wanted to give everybody a statin medication, which was predominantly Lipitor. In the last 10 years, you've been hearing the opposite. And that is something that has been researched a lot lately. And that is how come all of the other countries don't abide by low cholesterol and how come they're outliving us by 10 to 15 years? And it's a really interesting, and I don't mean to simplify this because it's a pretty big topic, but really low cholesterol is considerably more dangerous than high cholesterol when it comes to your life expectancy. So that is something that has to be taken into context. And with my patients in my clinic, the people that have the lowest cholesterol usually have the highest levels of obesity. The people that are the fittest and leanest, of course, have the highest cholesterol because they're burning fat. So when you're burning fat, your body's going to put more fat in your blood. That's what ketosis is. You're
Yes.
using ketones for energy. So your cholesterol levels are going to go up. And if your physician is not aware of it, they'll look at a total number and they'll get overly excited and worrisome, but you're really getting healthier. So once again, big topic, don't mean to try to oversimplify the whole
Yeah.
thing. There's a lot of factors that go into cholesterol. So typically with my clients, when their cholesterol levels are going up, it's because they're becoming healthier, less obese, less levels of heart disease, less levels of diabetes, less levels of depression, dementia, more energy, more strength. So it's something that we keep an eye on.
Yes. So I was listening to a podcast not too long ago. I don't remember who it was, but they were talking about the ketogenic diet. And the guest on the show was talking about a client that he had that was suffering with um, depression. and there were signs of dementia starting. And so they switched up his diet and they put him on a keto diet. And within a couple of weeks' time, his mental state improved tremendously because of the fat. And I believe that our brains are made up of a lot of fat, and that's what we need. And so when I was, listening to this episode, I was like, it makes perfect sense. And I remember back, I want to say in the 80s, where everything was fat free and it was the biggest craze, fat free. And as we got into the 90s and later than that, so many people were developing dementia, like people in my family. And I was like, why is this going on? Well, it's like so prominent and just so many people. And I feel like it really is an easy fix between diet, lifestyle, movement, keeping your brain active. And oils are really one of the best things that you could do for your brain and your body, I feel. So I was really intrigued. Did you see any of your clients that were struggling with mental acuity that have improved based on this?
Yeah, without question. In fact, I'm going to go back a little bit before the 1980s. I'm going to go back to the beginning of human evolution.
Okay.
It's 2.7 million years. That's even before the 1980s. When you go back to human evolution, we only had two sources of food. You could fish or hunt. That
Right.
was so our diet, we really developed on just really two things, proteins and fats. In those, that's why those two things are still essential. You must take in protein. In fact, even the word protein, it's a Greek word in the direct translation means first importance. So protein is first importance. In dietary fat, as you just mentioned, the reason why it's essential is because 97% of the energy for the human brain comes from dietary fat. Now, we could get deeper into it and talk about what types of fats, and that's a big topic because all fats are not equal. But protein and fats are essential and necessary. So it's funny when people say, wow, I've started just eating proteins and fats, and all of these things are happening. I'm dropping body fat, I have more energy, the vessel walls in my body, my heart, I'm getting less calcium, less occlusion around my heart, less diabetes, blood sugar levels are dropping, mental acuity, everything that we're just mentioning, kidneys clear up, a lot of these great things. And they're like, wow, this is amazing that we invented this. Oh my goodness, we did not invent any of this. You could thank your caveman
Yeah.
ancestors for this whole thing because that was human food. That was nutrition. That's how we ate. And also, a lot of evidence pushes to the fact that we really only ate once every 8 to 11 days.
Yeah.
So there's your intermittent fasting, there's your proteins and fats. We've changed it with evolution. In the first evolution really was agriculture, which happened about 10 to 12,000 years ago, which is we started cultivating different types of grains. So that's when it started to change. And obviously right now it's nothing, it doesn't resemble anything close to that. So yes, when you increase proteins and dietary fats, you will see much more mental acuity. That's pretty quick. So sometimes people will say, hey, it's only been 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And I feel mental fog is gone. I feel clear, especially in the morning. So the brain fog has lifted. I feel sharper earlier. So a big test that I have clients do is when you wake up in the morning, try to notice how long it takes until you're mentally sharp and awake. If you used to struggle for a period of time, and it might have been half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, some people 2 hours, see if that starts decreasing. And people will start saying, it's like now 5 minutes, 2 minutes. I have some people that'll tell me within 30 to 60 seconds, I feel like I could almost do anything. So what they're noticing is that less of that brain fog first thing in the morning. They're not having the sugars and carbs and they're increasing their good dietary fats.
With that, I wanted to just touch on, so when someone starts on a keto diet and begins to eliminate a lot of the carbs, there's the keto flu that is part of the transition. So, talk about that, and what are some ways, or do you just have to tough it out, or are there some things that you can do to make it less severe? Because I know you get headaches, body aches. Someone who's been eating a lot of carbs will really go through a detox, let's say.
Yes, and that's exactly it. So for a long time, people thought, well, if I have more proteins and fats, I'm going to feel the effects of it until my body gets used to it. And it's really not the case. What you just said is really the case. See, we just mentioned earlier that carbs are made up of sugars, and sugar is considered and classified as a drug.
Yes.
Now, whenever you eliminate or reduce a drug, you're going to have side effects. So,
Yes.
one of the things that I like to teach is that sugar or carbs are like tobacco. Now, yes, you can develop a tolerance to it if you just keep having it for a long period of time, which is essentially what we do with carbs and sugars.
Yeah.
When you start reducing and eliminating it, your body says, wait a second, you used to give me these sugars, you used to give me these carbs. What happened? Hey, we had a deal. We're friends. Where's my carbs? Where are my crackers? Where are my pretzels? Right? So your body's looking for it. So you're feeling the effects of it. And if you don't give it to it like anything else, you go through withdrawal. In the withdrawal symptoms, a lot of people will say, well, I feel like I'm being sick or I have a cold, I have the flu.
Yeah.
They might develop headaches, they might develop body aches, they might feel temperature regulation issues, they might feel somewhat nauseous. So I have these flu like symptoms. No, you have withdrawal symptoms from what you really shouldn't be having that you develop tolerance to, which is the drug of sugar. So that is the process you have to go through. Now, the good news about sugar is, once again, the half life is only 5 days. Other drugs are considerably longer, and that's why it's harder to quit it. But with carbs, 5 days. So the maximum amount of time you're going to feel that is going to be 5 days. However, we found that most people, it's only 48 hours. So 85% of the strength of sugar is exhausted in the first 48 hours. So if you hang tight, you have a strategy that you're properly hydrated, you're still
Mhm.
eating good foods, and this is the moment, Susan, that you would really want to increase your dietary fats even more because you'll
Oh,
feel better. You don't want to go through no carb and no fat. If you do that, you'll be punishing yourself too much. Increase your dietary fats, take your oils, take your MCT oil, use your olive oil, use your macadamia nut oil. If you have it, use fish oil too, which is a wonderful source of instant energy, especially when you're going through withdrawal. And you're going to get through it much better. And then, of course, we just want to be very careful with how we reintroduce it so you don't get addicted again.
right. Right. Okay. Tell me any other products besides the macadamia oil that you feel is a bestseller and the benefits of it?
My bestseller of all time is that macadamia nut oil because, once again, as soon as you start cooking with it, it will be your new favorite oil. If you were to ask me what product in the last 3 months has exploded so much so that we are having a hard time keeping it on the shelf, I mentioned earlier what is called our salad dressing. It's called Origin salad dressing or Origin keto salad dressing that has a Mediterranean flavor. And oh my goodness, over the last 90 days, we have struggled with production to keep it up to pace because it has just been received so well. It is a 100% extra virgin olive oil salad dressing. Now, you might be hearing that saying, yeah, I know, but so what? I can go into the grocery store. There's a lot of dressings that use olive oil. They do, but it's not EVOO, and they're cutting it with other preservative based oils, namely soybean oil is the number one. So this oil, this dressing, you don't have to refrigerate after opening. Think about that for a salad dressing that you could leave on the counter.
Mhm.
Nobody does that because every one of those dressings contains a vegetable oil, soybean oil that must be refrigerated or they'll go bad. This oil does not. So Origin keto salad dressing has just exploded in overall sales. We mentioned the high octane MCT oil. And lastly, I do have a pharmaceutical grade fish oil that mimics prescription fish oil. The fish oil that you get over the counter is not that at all. We've talked about the smoke point of oils.
Mhm.
When you walk into a health food store, they have extracted that oil after heating up the fish to extract it. And fish oil is very fragile. It's only 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So that oil is also rendered already impotent, whereas prescription fish oil is cold processed. So we have a wonderful pharmaceutical grade fish oil called omega 3 which mimics exactly what you'd get from a prescription oil, which is like Lavazza, but at a 20th of the price, where Lavazza is probably $1,200 a month if you have even good health insurance. This is like a fraction of that, which will give you all the benefits of it. So all of those products and so much more at strengthgenesis.com.
Okay. Any final thoughts or recommendations that you would give my listeners? Let's say someone who's looking to drop 10 pounds or just get healthier overall. What do you recommend?
Yeah, in general, you're always going to do yourself a lot of good increasing your protein intake and increasing your dietary fats. But we're always going to make sure that we're eating quality. So I'm a huge fan of quality foods in our body. So in terms of protein, we do have a grass-fed New Zealand protein, which is the top standards in the world for any protein. And also, we talked a lot about dietary fats. When you fuel your body properly, Susan, with these types of macronutrients, not only are you going to look better, you're going to drop that weight, but you're going to feel better and you're going to be healthier because you have a better energy supply. So you
Mhm.
could find all of those once again at strengthgenesis.com.
Okay, great. Thank you.